What just happened? All right, well, I'm back. I don't know what I just screwed something up. Hold on just a second, my friends. I was supposed to I just messed that up, so I apologize for that. I hit instead of stop screen share, I hit stop broadcast. And that's not what I meant to do. So hold on just a second. We're gonna get back this on the right. Hold on just a second. We are hoping we're back here. Yeah. All right, we'll get you. We'll get it. We're gonna go to my videos, and we're gonna go to my channel right here. And hold on just a second. Live now. There we go. I think we should be good to go. I'm thinking. Yeah. I'm thinking. Yeah, okay. Looks like we're live again. Probably shouldn't have hit stop broadcast. Sorry about that. All right. So I'm back. I hope you guys are still back with me. I see a couple people on now, so that's good. All right, Quincy, right on. All right, so if you guys were off before, I apologize. Okay, it looks like we got most of y'all back. Fantastic. Let me just, all right, cool. Looks like we got you back. All right, fantastic. So, well, I was just reading to you, and I royally screwed that up, but I said how the average man, most people don't go to nursing homes, and the average who do, in this case, men go for 0.88 years, women go for 1.44 on average. So the issue is that most people don't. The people that do don't go for very long. All right, I mean that's just a fact. And so what we see a lot now is we see all these people saying, "Oh my goodness, healthcare is going to be the biggest expense," and it can be. I don't deny that in the least. It certainly can. I mean, we know for a fact lots of people have major healthcare expenditures for sure. The issue comes down to, though, is it enough for you to change your whole perspective on retirement planning in terms? Let me just write something in here. Hey guys, hey Quincy, hey Sacred Hill, I'm here. I lost the previous video by accident. Sorry guys. All right. So, and if you don't mind, give me one of y'all, give me a thumbs up that you have the voice here too. We're back right on, Jeff. Okay, shoot. Let's hope to see Jeff there. Hey, thanks, man. All right, so what I was just Cheryl back. All right, right on. Good. So what I was saying is that I just read to you the verbatim from one of the studies from that's from CRR, Center for Retirement Research, that says most people don't go to nursing homes, and the one they do, it's basically essentially for a year on average. What happens is the numbers get so skewed by the people who expend an enormous amount of money. It looks like everything is expensive in that regard. It's not. Now, that doesn't mean you don't take precautions and whatnot. I mean, again, I have long-term care. In fact, I got my bill the other day, and my premiums are cheaper than I thought. So for mine, my wife is $29.46 a month for her long-term care insurance. Now, we took this out. I'm 48 and a half now. I think that's 41. So she would have been 37 or something like that. And so she took this out. So it's $30 a month for her. And now we don't have a huge policy. I mean, I think we have, I can't remember off the top of my head, $4,000 a month, $5,000. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then my bill is $37. So between us, we pay $60 a month for long-term care. And that's, for me, that's a good coverage, because I want to make sure that if something were to happen to me or her, that we're not despondent because we have to pay for the bills for in-home provider and all that, because we blow through our money like in 2 seconds flat. Anyway, so I don't want people to think you shouldn't get long-term care, shouldn't pay that as part of your retirement planning. But let's not focus on the tiny minority of people who spend a lot of money on it, assuming that's going to be reflected in all this, if that makes any sense. Quincy and Maria are freezing in Pennsylvania. It's not freezing down here, but lots of rain, that's for sure. I need to move. So Jeff asked, do my premiums fix or are they over time? Are they fixed or they change over time? Good question. So for me, we have one where it's we have GPO, which is guaranteed payment option, or I can't remember what the GPO stands for. But anyway, we can increase every 2 years, I think, Jeff, we get a thing from this is through Knights of Columbus. We get a thing from them that says you want to increase your benefit amount by X amount of dollars, and if you do, you will pay more for that privilege, if that makes sense. I think of the 5 times, so we had this about 10 years now. I think of the 5 times, I think it's every 2 years I get that. I think I've taken them up probably 3 times, and I haven't taken them up twice. And like I didn't take it up this last time. We just got it about 2 months ago. So what happens is for us, I say, look, I want to make sure we have enough coverage that will provide us for a certain amount of time. I don't need lifetime coverage or anything like that. I mean, I just hate to say it, but if we need lifetime, we're going to be destitute anyways. It doesn't matter. And so that's how we do it. But remember, the reason why it's so freaking cheap is I took it when we were young. I mean, 37 and 41 respectively. And that's why everyone, you get insurance when you don't need it. You don't get insurance on your home when the house is burning down. You get it when you don't need it because that's why it's cheap, and the insurance company will give you underwriting for that. Now I will tell you with long-term care though, just real quick, guys, they will give you a different kind of underwriting. They're going to ask you cognitive stuff as opposed to just blood work and whatnot. The cognitive stuff is going to say, hey, they'll talk about Tom Brady, and then they'll say something like red cow, and they'll go back to talking about Tom Brady, and they'll say something like, did we say anything that's weird in there? And you're like, yeah, he said something about red cow. I mean, I'm being silly, but it's along those lines. You're like, that don't make any sense. I mean, they're trying to get your reaction to your brain. And Frank, if any of y'all have ever worked with someone with Alzheimer's and known someone with Alzheimer's, they can fly off the handle pretty quickly, especially if they're men and they're not there yet. They get angry pretty quickly, frustrated what it is, and they'll lash out. And so they're trying to develop if your cognitive skills and if you kind of fly off the handle too quickly, because they can put those 2 and 2 together and say, this guy probably's got some issues on potential for Alzheimer's, dementia, long-term care stuff. So anyway, it's I'm a big fan of getting it, and I think everyone should, because if you are concerned about being one of those few people who spend a lot of money, well, the way you offset that is you put the cost on the insurance company, take it off your risk and put it on the insurance company. It's going to cost you some money, absolutely, but it's money, in my opinion, well spent. Now, once you hit, there are no kids around or anything like that, you can drop the coverage without question. I don't have any qualm with that. But I think if that is a concern for people out there who probably 60 and younger, get a long-term care policy. I've talked about that a couple of times before in other videos, but I do think it's a good way to cost-effective way to minimize risk for retirement. But that's what, just real quick, I want to point out, again, the likelihood of you needing it is so minute that you shouldn't worry all your pretty little head off thinking that, oh my goodness, I need long-term care because we're going to be destitute. I mean, I'm going to need to have to plan for $3 million in savings because we're going to be destitute because of a long-term care issue. It's just not likely to happen. Doesn't mean it won't, just not likely. All right, let's see. What is your primary audience on YouTube when you look at your stats? Says Alex, I'd love to see more videos for us 18, 30 years. Yeah, no, right on, Alex. Alex. 1923. So he asked, what's my primary audience? It's 55 roughly. I remember I did a lot of, when I started doing my channel, all my videos are pretty longer than the average Joe, and everyone's like, people, young people don't want to watch the videos that long. And I said, I don't think that's true. I think that's true with young people, but I think for my audience, which is a little bit older, they have more of ability to stay focused. And don't take that wrong. I'm just telling you, I know I got my stupid thing here all the time. I know what it's like, man, but my videos are more geared towards folks looking at retiring in the next, a few years. Younger people, it's not that difficult, man. I got a guy, and if you're on this, my man Jeff, and you know who you're talking about, I did receive your stuff today. But I got one of his, well, let's just put it this way. A young lady, 33 years old, with a husband's 37, emailed me a nice long email about their situation, and want to do a plan, the whole thing. I said, there's just no reason to do a plan. It's just not for younger people. And the reason for that is because there's nothing to plan. We don't know what's going to happen. Everything changes. I just find this, we need to get this elaborate financial planning document that's this thick long. It's insane. It's silly. No one needs to do that, especially if you're young, because things are going to happen. Whatever we plan for today will be completely gone tomorrow. What you can do, and I mean, I did videos on this. I'll probably do another one because I meant to do a follow-up on the 5 things. You pay down debt, you save a little bit of money, you invest aggressively, you have life insurance, and you have a durable power of attorney. So if I'm a younger person, let's say 35 or 40 or younger, I got 5 things I'm trying to do. Pay down debt without question. I want to pay down debt. I mean, I'm just telling you, man, that's what you got to do. Pay down debt. Invest aggressively. Your work is your bond, Alex. I'm going to talk to you right now. Your work, your income is your bond. You don't need bonds. You just don't. You don't need any bonds because your labor is your bond. So you're paying down debt. Your labor is your bond. Thus, your investment should be aggressive as all can be, because unless something happens to you where you can't go back to work, you can find another job. And again, that's like a bond. So your income, your labor is a bond. So you can afford to take more risk with your investments. You still need an emergency account. Don't get me wrong. I don't have any qualm with that. That doesn't mean you put everything into markets, but I kind of think you should. If it's a mutually exclusive, only one can happen. Investing aggressively or have an emergency account, I'm going to go with investing aggressively simply because we got to get that growth without question. Roth IRA, without question, is the way to go in that regard. What did I say? So pay down debt, invest aggressively, save some money as much as you possibly can. I mean, it's cliched, I get that, but obviously try to save money. Durable power of attorney. Durable power of attorney if you're married. I cannot stress this enough. Young folks say, I don't need estate planning because I don't have kids, or I don't have I don't have any assets. Yeah, estate planning isn't about assets. It's about what happens to you if you're incapacitated. That's what happens. And if you have a spouse and you have separate assets because you have assets in an IRA and she's got assets in a 401k, these are individual accounts. You don't own them. She owns hers, you own yours. You might be the beneficiary, which if she dies, it's easy. It goes to you, but you don't have any access to it, man. None. Without a durable power of attorney. And I'll say this till I'm blue in the face. A general power of attorney stops at incapacity. It stops at incapacity. And incapacity is when we need that puppy to work. We don't need it to work if she's capacitated, if that's the right word. We need it to work if she's tied up in a hospital. She doesn't know who she is. She had an accident. She has Alzheimer's, something like that. That's when we need your ability to step in and manage her financial affairs, is during incapacity. So a general power of attorney doesn't do the job. Now, a general power of attorney could do the job if you need her to, you're going to co-sign a checking account for her or something like that. But I mean, whoop-de-doo. A durable power of attorney survives incapacity. Now, secondly on that, and look, I'm not an attorney. I don't, whatever. Go talk to legal advice. I'm all about that. I recommend all the time people here in Georgia to see a couple of attorneys without question. And you should go see your own legal counsel for sure. But I'm just telling you right now, a durable power of attorney that takes 1 or 2 doctors to sign off on it, testifying of your incapacity. I just don't get that. I get it if I'm in my 8th relationship and I've been taken advantage of before. If I'm married to my wife for 20 years, we got 4 crumb crunchers, tax credits behind me. There's no way I put any provision on there that says she has no access to my cash unless an attorney or a doctor sees testifies that. I don't get that. Let me close my door. Hold on a second. I noticed my door wasn't closed all the way, and I just want to make sure I'm not waking up the kids because I do talk kind of loudly. All right, so durable power of attorney. You got to get that done, and you want it in effect now. You don't want it in effect because 2 docs who don't know you from Adam say, yeah, I guess, Alex is not good, so I'm going to sign off. And the doctors aren't going to do that. I mean, the liability to them is huge. And lastly, get life insurance. And oh, by the way, we got pretty major rainstorm here. So if it starts going in and out, I apologize. Wi-Fi, sometimes it happens. Get life insurance when you are when you're young. I mean, just get it. Get a $250. What I say is get a $500,000 30-year term policy from USAA or whatever company, not through work, but through a private company. Because remember, as I say all the time, if you get it through work, they're going to give you a substandard rate unless you are not healthy. So they'll give you a rate based on the average person, and the average person essentially is a smoker. So if you're a 32-year-old young buck and you're putting up 315 on the bench and you're freaking awesome, and you're not eating high carbs, eating lots of good quality protein food and low carbs and stuff, man, there's no reason why you'd get a policy through work, because essentially you're subsidizing those people who smoke, and don't do that. I mean, look, everyone, I trust me, both my parents smoke. They still do. I used to smoke, but I don't want to subsidize people who smoke. I want to get it on my own. And that way I get it outside of work, not through my employer, because my employer gives me this general rule for how underwriting. And that is not going to be to your benefit, I'm sure. I'm telling you. Now, if you do smoke and you have issues, that's different. Then you should get it through work because you're being subsidized by those people who don't. And nothing wrong with that. You know going in how that works. So those are my 5 things, my friend, for younger folks. I'll do another video on that, and I'll just kind of finalize that, but it's just not much really other than that. Because what are you going to do? I hear all the time, like, I want to make sure I got $4 million. I'm like, huh? I mean, why? It's 25, 30 years away from now. Are you doing all you can do to get where you are this year? If you are, then you're good. All right, let's see. Dennis, oops, I saw Dennis, my man Dennis from Plainfield, Illinois, came in. Right on. They'll ask family history of Alzheimer's. That's right. Yeah, I am, John. I got to get you on that financial planning software. So John asked me, am I still doing the financial planning software thing? Yeah, I've had a couple people email me on that since I opened up before. So basically, I was going to do it once every 2 weeks to open that up. So if you're interested, I've had pretty good success with people on that. No one's been a pain in the ass. So let's just put it that way, which is great. And I wasn't expecting anyone to be. That sounds arrogant, but no, I do get more concerned. I've been in financial planning a long time with software where it's just, how about if it makes my head spin how many people, ways people want to diagnose it. And look, I don't have any problem you doing it on your own. I just don't want to be part of that. I've been doing that for so long. But yeah, I will open it back up, John. I owe you an email with that for sure. So if anyone has emailed me in the last probably 2 weeks about the financial planning software and you haven't heard back from me, I will open that up. I'll probably tomorrow, I'll get back on that and start sending out those invites. And what happens here is you just get an invite, you start putting your stuff. I do need to do a couple things on Social Security. Some guy, I forgot who it was, and I like this guy too. I forgot who it was. So if you're watching this and you know who you are, I apologize for not remembering your name. He asked me about how to do Social Security. And I want to dive into that on a video because that's actually incredibly important. And if you do that wrong, you're underwhelming yourself when you shouldn't be. We did a video on Roth conversions the other day, which I thought worked out pretty well. But anyway, any advice on that stuff, put in the comments or something like that for sure. There's some big time thunder. So hopefully I'm still on this video. All right. New tax law, tax returns. People are saying they're getting less, having most child credits travel. Yeah, Marie, it boggles my mind how many people, let's see. Okay. So Marie said, how about the new tax law? People are griping about, not getting enough back. And look, you knew that was going to happen. I mean, we knew the media was going to focus on the people who are getting, I was reading some places like $16 less than they got last year. The idea that the media is going to take a fair stake on that is nuts. But again, as what happens is, I mean, you have a certain amount of tax you got to pay. You pay less, or you pay more. And if you pay less than the amount that you're supposed to pay, you owe. If you pay the same as the amount you're supposed to pay, you don't get anything back. And if you pay more than the amount you're supposed to pay, you get a refund. It's literally that simple. It has nothing to do with the tax bill. The idea the tax bill raised taxes, no, it didn't. There might have been different withholdings, as I think my man Ken from Atlanta pointed out, was a CPA. Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was Jeff, a guy named Jeff Shido or something like that. Somebody pointed out, I think it was him because he's a business owner, that withholdings might have changed. And if you're not looking at your W-4 on your withholding amount, that's, and I'm not talking to you, Marie, that's an issue. You got to look at W-4. What's my withholding? Do I need to adjust it? But I mean, the facts are, if you owe $10,000 in tax and you only pay $8,000, you're going to have a tax bill of $2,000. It has nothing to do with the Trump bill, because I can almost assure you the vast majority of us pay less. And we know that for a fact because of 2 reasons. The vast majority of taxpayers are in the lower tax brackets, 12%, 10%. It used to be 15%. It's no longer 15%. It's now 12%. So inherently, right out of the gate, we know for a fact our tax rate has declined. Standard deductions are higher. We know that for a fact as well. So again, the vast majority of us, we have a lower percentage of tax percentage wise what we owe, and we have a higher standard deduction. I mean, it's literally that simple. It's not rocket science. I do hear, and I'm not all that sympathetic, frankly, to folks in New Jersey and New York and California, the high salt state where you have limits on your state and local tax deductions. You got to take that up with your governor. I mean, take it up with Cuomo, take it up with the guy, what's the name now, Newsom in California. New Jersey, I know Murphy in New Jersey. So these are all Democrats. I'm trying to Baker in Massachusetts. Take it up with that guy. Who's the guy in Maryland? I forgot his name. He seems like an all right guy. He's a Republican in Maryland. I forgot his name. They just changed the law. They just raised taxes. It looks like in Illinois. I haven't followed that closely yet, but that's now a Democrat. So you got to take up the legislatures. I mean, that's just a fact. I mean, you can't blame the federal government for not wanting to subsidize the high tax states. I know I'll get tons of anger on that, but that's the way I see it. So the alternative is you either take it up to your state legislature or you get the hell out of Dodge. I mean, literally. Remember, if you're 65 years old and above and you live in the great state of Georgia, $130,000 is tax-free. It's not Tennessee, which has no state income tax. It's not Florida, which has no state income tax. The vast majority of us are not making 130 at 65 years old and above in Georgia. Thus, you pay no state income tax. And you get lower property taxes too. Huh? Not lower than Tennessee, but not huge high property taxes. And the sales tax in Georgia is much lower than in Tennessee as well. A shameless plug for the good state of Georgia. We'll probably end up back in Virginia just because I love Virginia, but we shall. That's many years to come. So just from what I understand, since my wife will make far less than I over just want to hear my man Jerry or Gary. Just want to understand, since my wife will make far less than I over our lifetime, is it normally best for her to take at her to take at 62 and let mine build up to effort? Yeah, absolutely, Jerry. A lot of the academics will argue, and I tend to agree with this. The higher working spouse, and my wife Charlotte, the lower working spouse. Charlotte takes it at her earliest age, 62. I take it at full retirement age, if not 70, with the delayed earnings credits. I completely agree with that. Now, what will happen is, will her spousal benefit be more than her reduced benefit? Probably not, especially if she took it at 62. But that remember, you can't take spousal benefit unless the other spouse has filed now. So when she takes that 62, it won't be a spousal benefit. It'll be her own benefit, if that makes sense. It will be reduced by whatever it is nowadays, 25%, something like that. But yes, I do want to talk about that too with Jerry. So, and don't forget, I'm 4 years old. My wife, I make more money. I'm going to die quicker. There's no other way around that. When I die, I want her to step into the biggest benefit possible, which would be my benefit, and my benefit if I waited till I was 70 with my delayed retirement credits, at 8% a year. So if I can delay, you too, Jerry, if you can delay taking it until you're 67, 66, wherever your full retirement age is, or even better, if possible, 70, you're leaving your spouse, your surviving spouse, a decent little life insurance component too through Social Security. And I'm a huge fan of that. Dennis, I have 9% of my 401k in a traditional 401k. I want to retire in about 10 years. So I really try to transfer. Yeah. All right. So Dennis, basically, he's still working. He's got, let's say $100,000 in his 401k, of which 90,000 is in the traditional and 10 is in the Roth. Should he really try to transfer it over to the Roth? I don't know, man. It depends on your income. It really does. I would actually, going forward, I put everything into the Roth going forward for sure. But if you're putting everything in the Roth going forward, and now you're going to start transferring money to the Roth from the traditional, that's a double tax burden that you weren't getting before. Because remember, before you had everything going traditional and you were not doing a conversion. So if you're going to do, put money into the Roth on top of doing conversions, now you get two more income sets that before you didn't have any. And so that's, I don't know if I'd do that. I'd wait till I hung up my boot. I'd still fund the Roth without question. My contributions going to the Roth. I'd wait till I hang up my boots and I'd start doing gradual conversions at that point. I hope that helps. 36 on 100%. Oops. My man Quincy. I like that. I'm 36, 100% stock as government employee. Yeah, the FERS pension is right on, Quincy. FERS is wonderful. CD is your bond, and and he's invested in the 100% stock. Presumably, it'll be the. I like those life cycle funds for the TSP, Quincy. Certainly, we don't want the F, we don't want the G, we want the C, the S, and the I. Right, C, S, and I. If not one of those life cycle aggressive funds. Your channel is fantastic, says my man Alex. Thank you. We'll be watching a lot of your videos. Please consider making more for us youngins. Not all of us have a 2-second attention span. The government provides a life insurance policy. You have to elaborate on that. If you think the Social Security one is only $250 or something like that, it's like, that ain't it. Now, if it's through your employer, a lot of times you get $50,000 free. You don't have to do anything. And that's just because the tax code, I think. And don't quote me on this, but I think it's like the first $50,000 that they give to you is a benefit that you don't have to pay tax on. Anything above that, I think it's imputed income for which you do have to declare tax. I don't quote me on that. Either way, at the end of the day, you take the free life insurance because literally it costs you none. But anything above that, if you're going 4 or 5, 6 times salary, get a private policy. I'm telling you. In fact, shameless plug for my this book right here, where I talk about that in detail, where I have a whole chapter on do not rely on your employer for life insurance, and I give you what happened to me, which was kind of very not comforting, if you shall. Let me just tell you, I was driving up I was working with some folks up in Tennessee, up in Kingsport. I was driving up and back, spending 2 weeks up there, come back, spend 2 weeks up there. And it was on Easter Sunday. I was leaving to go up there. And man, I had a blowout on 85, right at probably 45 minutes south of Chattanooga, Easter Sunday. It was raining like this, like it is right now. It was nuts out there. And I'm a pretty prepared guy. So I do have a little, air compressors to pump up my tire, but man, I'm on the side of the road. I was lucky to go outside the road, so I wasn't deep on the side there. If you know what I'm talking about, this track trails are flying by. It doesn't seem that big of a deal when you're driving next to them, but when you're sitting on the side of the road, the rain's pouring on you, it's starting to get dark out. These tractor trails are flying you. It's scary, man. I just remember thinking, if that thing would have went out and I would have hit, a tractor trail and be dead, we would have had no life insurance. And the reason was because I had left my previous employer with my previous employer's life insurance plan. I did not roll it over because it's portable, because it's so flipping expensive to roll it to a portable policy. And I was in the process of being underwritten for my own policy at the same time. And that own policy hadn't been approved yet. So there's like a 3-week time there that it scared the poop out of me, man. I said, if I die on this highway, it's not good. And I said, you can't have that happen for sure. So I'm just telling you, get a private life insurance policy. I talked about the whole context of how that happened to me. And if you don't smoke, there's no reason not to have insurance. I'm just life insurance. It's so flipping cheap anymore. And I'm telling you, people say, well, I don't have kids or I'm not married. Okay, you might not now, but you may be. If you're totally convinced you're never going to have kids and never get married, hey, I don't care. If you're thinking there's a good chance you're going to get married and maybe have kids, I'm talking a $250,000 life insurance policy for a 28-year-old young man who does smoke. It's like $15 a month, man. It's inexcusable, in my opinion, not to have life insurance outside of your employer. My man Kenny, I'm married and living in Kentucky. I plan on retiring in 6 years. If we get $45,000 a year in Social Security and $30,000 in pensions, how much will I have to pay in taxes? All right. And so we're married filing jointly. So we know in Kentucky, did he say we know there's not going to be any tax in Kentucky because very favorable there. All right. So we take, oh man, I don't have my chart here. All right. So I'm going to show you. We're going to run this numbers here. Ready? So this is a good question, Kenny. We got $45,000 in Social Security and $30,000 in pension. And that's all we're going to say. So we got these two numbers right here. What we do is we take half that 45,000, which is what 22.5. So we take half of this 45,000, 22.5, and we add it to that right there. All right. So we're going to have our provisional income is going to be 52,500 is our provisional income. 52,500. The first 32,000 of that is tax free. The next 12,000, 6,000 of that is going to be taxable as income. And now there's a method of my madness here. Bear with me just a second. And the amount that's 52,000 minus 44,000. So bear with me just a second. 52,500 minus 44,000. 8,500 will be taxed at 85%. All right. And then bear with me just a second. Oops, 8,500. I'll write it all down for y'all to see. That's 72.25. All right, so let me show you what's going on. I don't know if you can follow this chicken scratch. All right, so we got our provisional income. hope you all can see this. Let me just make sure you can. And go over here real quick. Okay, cool. Yeah. Your provisional income is your 45,000 is your Social Security plus your 30,000 in pension. We take half of the 45,000 because when you figure out your provisional income, all it's doing is saying how much of our benefit is taxable, how much of our Social Security benefit is taxable, not how much tax we pay, but just how much of our Social Security benefit. Two-step process here. So we got 45, so it's 22.5. And if my numbers are off, just I'm doing it at the top of my head. So we take 22.5, we add it to our other income. In this case is your pension income. It could be any income. It could even be tax exempt interest, by the way. All right, so now we have total provisional income of 52,500. I'm not sure if that's going backwards or not, but anyways, 52,500 is our provisional income. The first if you're married filing jointly, the first 32,000 of that provisional income is nothing subject to tax. The next from 32,000 to 44,000, which is 12,000 bucks, 50% of that is subject to tax. In that case, is $6,000. All right. So that's 6,000 bucks right there. You can see my chicken scratch. Then now the amount from 52,000 to whatever that is, 52,500 minus 44,000, which is 8,500. 85% of that is subject to taxation. Does that make sense? So now how much of our total Social Security is subject to taxation and all that is 13,225. 13,225 is our taxable Social Security. But we still have to add your $30,000 of pension to get to our AGI. So we take 30,000 of pension. So we got our taxable Social Security, 13,000. What was it? 225, 13,225 plus our other income. Now, this would not be tax exempt interest. This is just any taxable income right here. And we're not talking about qualified dividends right now. We're not talking about long-term capital gains either. That's a whole different thing. This is just income. Your IRA distributions, if you got earned income, in this case, a pension. All right, so our AGI in this case is 43,225. Now, I'm going to say you're under the age of 65. All right, so and I think it's 24.4 is our. I think it is 24.4 is our standard deduction. So I'm just going to say you're under the age of 65. So 43,000, whatever that is, 225 is our AGI, adjusted gross income. Our standard deduction is 24,400. So we take 43,225 minus 24,400. Our taxable income is 18,825. That's your taxable income, 18,825, which keeps you in the 10% tax bracket, my friend. All right, so that's your basically your taxes in that regard are going to be roughly $1,885. So you pay 10% taxes on that 18,825 income. Nothing to the great state of Tennessee, Commonwealth of Kentucky, Commonwealth of Kentucky, about roughly we'll just say $2,000 to the feds, and that's it, man. So you have $75,000 of income, $2,000 of taxes. Now, secondly, if I may, if you got other stuff out there, capital gains and some stock that you don't like anymore, you start doing Roth conversions. Say you got $150,000 in a TSP, man. If your taxable income is only $18,825, you're still in the 10% bracket. You have $60,000 of income before you hit the 24% bracket. I mean, the 22% bracket. You should start doing freaking Roth conversions like a crazy man to take advantage of the fact that you're in the lowest tax code you'll ever be ever again. So I hope that helps. You're not paying much tax. It ain't happening. You're not paying anything to Tennessee. I keep saying Tennessee to Kentucky. You're in a good place. So employers have been taking a lot less out of your checks or returns. Okay. Yeah. See, my man CB, and I'm not sure if that's CACB or MICB. We got two CBs on here, one from Michigan, one from California. I'm not sure if that's which one that is, but employers have been taking a lot less out. Thus, you have more to pay. That's why you got to check your W-4. Murphy's going down as the worst governor. Really? Corzine? Why that guy's not in jail? I won't say anything else. Corzine should be in jail. Josh, I use various retirement planning software. I always struggle with a user input standard deviation. Granted, it should vary with investment instrument. But in board strokes, could you provide a recommendation? Okay. That's a good question. My man Rexbo. he says, so Rexwell says, hey, he struggles with standard deviation, and you need, that's a good observation, actually very intuitive. Is that the right word? Perceptive. That's what I was looking for. Facts are standard deviation and your projected returns determine your Monte Carlo projections. So I use standard deviation of 15% for stocks, and that because basically domestic stocks. I think I use on Right Capital, I think 20% on international. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's 15% standard deviation on domestic stocks. Let's just say 20% international. All right, so that's pretty high. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think I can't remember if I break it down to small caps. I think I do. I think I break it down to small caps. I just can't remember what it is off the top of my head. But roughly 15 is what I'm using for large cap domestic stocks, Rexbo. For bonds, I think I use 8 or something like that. It's not very much. I don't even think 8, maybe 5. There's a minimal amount for bonds. But anyway, so if you're doing retirement planning software, all right, so just a couple things, my friends, and whatever, Right Capital, Personal Cap, whatever you're using, the two things to determine your success, quote unquote, for Monte Carlo scenarios. Hold on just a second. My daughter just texted me. Okay. Yep. Now I'm a stay-at-home dad. I got people saying, can you drive me to school and pick me up at school and drive me to school and pick me up at school? And yep. Yes, ma'am. So when the daughter texts, even if you're on thing with 55 of your best friends, you still talk to her. What was I just saying? Anyway, so standard deviation. All right. So if your Monte Carlos are going to determine your success rate, right? Which, okay, I won't get into it now. The two premises that are your return projections for that asset class and their standard deviation projections for that asset class. I can guarantee you right now, I can make anyone's on Right Capital look like a freaking Mr. Burns millionaire in 5 years or 10 years in retirement if I make cash, for instance, paying 6.5% rates of return. And by the way, was there a company, let's just say there's a company I was very familiar with who had a software planning projection that had a conservative portfolio, 20% stocks, 80% bonds, giving you a 6.5% rate of return with a standard deviation of 7.5% or something like that. So everyone came out of that looking like freaking golden. It was awesome, smelling like roses, because all their retirement projections were 100%. It was nuts. And then the software previous to that said it was a NAVA plan. I don't want to get too far down. Anyway, let's just put it this way. You got to understand what your standard deviations are, and you've got to understand what projection returns are. So if you use a Fidelity software, they use eMoney. I'm a huge fan of eMoney. eMoney is one step above Right Capital. Right Capital is better on taxes, and Right Capital is for the poor folks like me because I can afford it. eMoney is way too expensive. They call me all the time too. I'm like, dude, if you give me some discounts, well, we might talk. But unless you get your tax stuff done, I don't even want to talk to you, especially with your costs. Anyway, so if you're looking at retirement projections, I don't care what program you're using, standard deviations, returns. You got to know those two things. I'm telling you right now, the software, my man Jeff Rain's software, junk in, junk out. And I mean, it's just all there is to it. So if you're using junk in, I'm going to give you a 6.5% rate of return on a 2080 portfolio with a 7% standard deviation. It's nuts. And yet when you talk to you today, my man Quincy, about the Wall Street Journal opinion piece about the Democratic governors, high tax states, Republican governors in the high tax states too, Vermont, Massachusetts, and Maryland. All right. Now they lost one in New Jersey. They lost one in Illinois. I guess that's it. And then North Carolina too. I mean, there's a Democratic governor there, and that's not a low tax state by any stretch for a southern state. North Carolina is pretty high tax. That's why another reason why Virginia is so nice. It's actually quite low. If you get out of Northern Virginia, the property tax is low, income tax are low, cost of living is low. I'm telling you, man, if you ever go Shenandoah Valley, man, it is Botetourt County out there by Lexington. Don't let those crazies at Washington Lee steer you. Yeah, it's a university, so it's going to be, let's just put it this way, there's some not very happy people out there in current politics, but it's just, you're not going to find a more pretty place in the world than Lexington, Virginia. I'm telling you, it's fantastic. I do have a good friend, a guy I talked to via YouTube who's from Scotland. He might disagree with that, but man. All right. So tax brackets are lowered. Employers withhold less throughout the year. There you go. So if employers are withholding less, then you're going to have, you didn't pay as much. I mean, that's just, but you know how the media is going to spin it. My wife will have enough to live on. This is what I'll plan. Nah, I'm telling you, Jerry, plan on deferring your Social Security. That's what I'm going to do. I mean, I'll go dig ditches. I'll go back to the infantry if they take me in there, just to make sure I don't have to take Social Security early. It's that important, which is another reason why I'm on lately on this bandwagon of we need to fix it, because it's a lot of people rely on it. And I know I will, and I know my wife will, and it needs a fix, and it needs to be fixed, hopefully bipartisan, not this crazy ACA stuff. And I mean, again, Obama got through. I mean, I wish they didn't, but they did. He got through legislatively, so more power to him. When they fix Social Security, it's got to be bipartisan legislation that both parties can agree upon. That's for sure. And that means Democrats and Republicans need to come to the table, which means there will be tax increase. I'm just telling you right now. But it's going to be beneficial once they do that for the long haul. My man Devin Carroll talked the other day, and I saw his channel about how Clinton was advocating investing some of the trust fund in the stock market. I completely disagree with that. 100%. I do not want big government dictating the board of directors or the diversity quotas or the green level of a company. I don't want that happening at all. I'm telling you, because what you might be in favor of now, my friends, they'll turn against you at some other point. Trust me on that. You do not want government dictating to corporations, publicly traded, privately run corporations. Hey, if you want us to invest in your company, you better have X amount of Y renewable energy, solar PV panels up on your rooftop. And that has nothing to do with the government company. So I don't want that at all. Not at all. I'm okay with a little bit more taxes for better Social Security trust fund, without question. My man Dennis will continue to watch my videos. What kind of life insurance do you get for younger person single? A term, man. There's no reason not to. I just get term, without question. Big A. Corzine and Florio look great compared to this guy. I forgot about Florio. Never a fan of Christine Todd Whitman either. I tell you, man, never a fan of her either. That's bipartisan. Beautiful area in Virginia. I've only been a couple of times. Oh man, what's the stock market going to do in 2019? Marie, I'll tell you what Charles Schwab used to say to us when I worked there for a small amount of time. It's going to go up. It's going to go down. I had no idea, frankly, but I like the fact we got our bear market behind us. We hadn't had a bear market since the last for large cap domestic stocks since March 9th of 2009. So this last month in December, 2 months ago, December 2018, we finally got a bear. That bear was 25%. So 25, I think it was 25% down. Yeah, or 20, I can't remember. But it's a bear market territory. It was there briefly, but we hit it. We hadn't had one for a long time. So I was very, very happy to see that for sure. I don't know what the market's going to do. I showed you my investments, 100% stocks. I don't believe in bonds. To have life insurance being single. Saw an interview on the business show that Illinois is so bad in debt they're looking in the law. Yeah, I saw that's yes, Dennis, exactly. I saw that. I didn't see the interview. I saw the link to the note. I need to look at that. I saw that too, because one of the benefits about Illinois right now is that if you're a pension, they don't literally income tax for retirees in Illinois is fantastic. It's fantastic. But I saw that too. But the reason is because the unions are so strong there, they're able to get rid of any taxes on pensions, and man, more power to them. That's what they're supposed to do. But now they're saying, now we're going to go after private pensions so we can fund the government pensions, which should tell you who carries the water in Illinois. The private pensions do for the public pensioners. That's a fact. And so you can see that a mile away. They're going to start taxing private pensions, or that's a proposal to solidify public pensions. So let's just say you're a Teamsters. All right. You lobby to get your pensions tax exempt in Illinois. You're taking a back seat to the government unions. That's for sure. And again, going back to FDR was adamantly against government employees unionizing. I like it or hate it. I don't care. It is what it is. We are there now. But FDR was against that because he knew that government employees unionizing would be chaos. And we're seeing that all over the place. And I mean, you can see it a mile away, and the government unions are going to win the day when it comes to the government unions versus private unions, because the private unions are just been decimated. I don't think that's a good thing, frankly. And I'm not the biggest proponent of unions, not by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think they serve a purpose. And I wish they had more, I wish they could have been more bipartisan. I think they would have more Republican side of the aisle had worked with, but more willing to work with them. But it's just my thoughts. Too bad. As an engineer, I'm trying to be overly conservative. I worry that I'm being too conservative in my projections. I probably I can't too easily make my retirement fail without any software I use. Am I buying at these levels or waiting for a little pullback? I'm fully bought anyway, Quincy. I don't do any. I mean, I just literally, I'm invested. That's all there is to it. There's no trading for me. I mean, the only thing I ever did is I dollar cost average on my 401k. I've always been in stocks. The only time I was not in stocks was in, I think the January of 2009. I put that a little bit of my 401k. I didn't have much, but I think I put 50% in bonds because I was nervous, man. If Obama just got elected, and I was nervous, and we had got killed the markets. You know, I think was that Elizabeth Warren, the Consumer Financial Protection Board. They had this guy named Richard Cordray, or all these guys. And I was like, it scared me to death. No, and I said I need to make sure that if we have mass layoffs across the U.S., i.e., me, and I wrote about that in my book too. As a matter of fact, what I was looking at, I said I got to make sure that we have mass layoffs. That at least I have something in bonds. That was the first time I ever had bonds, and you know, that never matriculated. And so about 3 months later, I went back all in stocks. I've never had any bonds ever since then. I actually, that's not true. I do have, turns out I do have 9% of my portfolio right now in bonds because by far my largest holding is a 20-50-50 life strategy fund from Vanguard. And it turned out it does have a little bit in the international bond fund and the domestic bond fund. But other than that, that's all I have. You fellow engineer, I'm way conservative. I guess I'll be buried in a solid gold coffin. Oh, Corey, I was going to email you about that. So about UBI, universal basic income. I mean, I'm telling you, man, I don't have any problem with it. I don't. I mean, I know people say, Nixon, to his credit. And I see, this is where just politics drives me crazy. Nixon, see, I didn't like Nixon. I mean, the only reason I like Nixon, well, I'm not going to get, hey, Michael, Nixon, let me show you. If you ever get a chance, read this book, Witness by Whitaker Chambers. We talk about Alger Hiss, how he's a commie, and that's factual evidence. That's not debatable anymore. And Nixon was the guy who went after Hiss and to get him, locked away. And that was when Nixon was a congressman. But when he became president, I mean, EPA, that's Nixon. Wage and price controls, Nixon. I'm just saying, no Republican should ever be doing this stuff, and yet Nixon did, and it's nuts. So I'm not a big fan of Nixon, but what he did say was he was floating the idea of essentially UBI back then, a guaranteed level of income. And I'm telling you, man, I said, look, get rid of all this other crap. Just say, we're going to give you vouchers. We're going to get rid of all the bureaucracy, all the safety nets. We're just going to give you vouchers. I don't have any problem with that at all, but they're never going to do both and get rid of all these safety nets and give you vouchers. I wish they would. So what we'll do is have a universal basic income on top of everything else. And that you just don't have the money for all this stuff. The money isn't there. So the universal basic income, which, forget that. Let's just focus on making Social Security legit. That's my number one thing. Everything else takes a backseat until Social Security is situated, squared away. And I got to tell you too, I am of the opinion, I think there's a raise due for Social Security. People say, well, then there's a welfare. Yeah. But if people worked, remember, you have to have 10 quarters or 40 quarters. That's 10 years of working earnings to make Social Security. That means you did work. You did participate in the workforce. And the idea that someone who's participating in the workforce can get, who had participated in the workforce can get no more than, as little as was it, $800 a month or something like that. We're talking less than $10,000 a year. I don't like that. I just don't. And I know there's no money. Look, I get that. And we're gonna have to come up with it somehow. But maybe they can repatriate some of this. Like someone saying maybe the market is going up because they got the cash from all these companies that had cash. I don't know. I don't want the government confiscating that. I'm just saying maybe we can repatriate to make get growth going in the economy more, so there's more tax revenue, whatnot. Whatever they got to do, but we got to get Social Security situated. There are a lot of people who are not living large solely on Social Security. And I don't like that. I think I wish that was not the case. And, maybe that's my bleeding heart liberal being raised from quite leftists. But I do think that if you're making $9,600 a year on Social Security and you did work 10 years to get those 40 credits, I don't like it. It leaves me a bad taste in my mouth. And I think there's got to be a change to some degree. So this is where people say, right winger, Trump, blah, blah, blah. Nah, see, I just think if you have reasoned debate, you can convince people of things they might not have otherwise believed. I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you, you can change people's minds by changing their hearts and say here, but you can't do it by some lady called me a xenophobe today. I was like, what the hell are you talking about? I mean, I obviously didn't know what a xenophobe is because I didn't say anything about immigrants or anything in the video I did. I was like, huh? Xenophobe? That has nothing to do with anything. It was weird. I said, why just throw names at people? It's nuts. Now, if you really believe you're passionate, like, hey, Josh, Trump is whatever, you should look at differently. Hey, well, bring it to the table, but just nuts. I can make the best portfolio explode with inflation rate of 8%. Yeah. Hey, it drives me crazy when financial articles focus on what you earn versus what you need. Yep. All right. So a couple things I want to talk about too. And if you all have more questions, great, fire them away. But I want to re-emphasize the thing I did today on we looked at the census data of income, of median income. And the median income for Americans has roughly in today's dollars about $5,000 a month or $60,000 a year. That's for a household. All right, so let's go back to how we figure out Social Security. This can be pretty easy, but let's just say you made $60,000 a year, and we've already inflated that. We've used the inflator on SocialSecurity.gov, so we have $60,000 a year. All right. And we're going to times that by 35 years. So $60,000. Let me make sure I get my thing back here. All right. So we're going to show you how this works because it's actually quite simple to figure out. We got $60,000 a year times 35 years. We've already inflated it. All right. We've already used the inflator on SocialSecurity.gov. That gives us 2.1 million in earnings. So we made 2.1 million of your indexed earnings, and that's your indexed earnings. Now what we do is we take that 2.1 million, we divide by 420, all right, to get our aim. So 2.1 million divided by 420, that'll give us a 5,000 a month. I guess I could have just done that actually. I already did that anyway. That gives us your average index monthly earnings of $5,000 a month. All right, so now what we do is we take the first, I think it's 926, we times that by 0.9. So we got $5,000 total is our aim. Then the next amount up to 926 to 5583. Don't quote, might be off a couple bucks there. All right, so let me show you what I'm doing here. So we have our AI average index monthly earnings. Again, what we do is we take all of our years of income, we inflate them. We times by 35 years. It's 35 years. That gives us $2.1 million in total inflated earnings, your index earnings, if you will. Divide that by 420. There's 420 months in a 35-year time frame. Just in case you don't know, the reason we're using 35 because that's what Social Security bases your benefit on. They say your top 35 years of earnings. So that's how it works. So we're just in this case, we're saying we average the median income adjusted for inflation, inflated using the Social Security inflated, and that's our median year over year $60,000, which is exactly the case in the United States. Looking at census numbers, I challenge the census numbers for IRA distributions, but this has nothing to do with the IRA distributions. It has to do with earned income, essentially. I mean, it's not quite apples to apples, but it's pretty doggone close. All right. So now our AIME, we have $5,000 as our average index monthly earnings. The first 926 of that, we times that by 0.9% because that's the first bend point. So 926 times 0.9 equals 833. That gives us $833. Now the next, 833. The next amount up to 5,583 is times by 0.32 is the next bend point. So 5583 minus 926, that's 4657. Oops, excuse me, bear me, just said 5,000 minus 926 times 0.32. That's 1303 is our next bend point amount. So basically what we do is we take $5,000 subtract 926. The remaining of that amount, which is whatever it was, 4,100 bucks or something like that, we times that by 0.32, which is our next spend point. And that gives us $1,303. All right. So we take 1,303 plus 833. And we have 2136 is our PIA. And that gives us our primary insurance amount of 2136. And again, your PIA is your benefit you'll get at your full retirement age. So let's just say your old Josh, your full retirement age is 67. So I know for a fact I'm getting $2,136 in Social Security. That we're not adjusting for any cost of living, right? We're just saying as if it were today, that's what I get. Now, a couple of things happens there. Let's just say my wife did not ever work. All right. We'll just say she stayed home, or your husband. I don't care. So what we do is we'll say we have, that's my PIA. If she waits until her full retirement age, she'll get half of that amount, which is divided by 2. And that's 1068. So 1068 plus 2136 equals 1068 plus 2136 equals $3,204. So that will be the amount we get at our full retirement age, $3,204 a month in Social Security. We times that by 12. That's about $40,000 right there a year just from Social Security, all tax free, by the way. There's no tax. So if I was making $60,000 a year, and of which I had to pay FICA tax, which is 7.65, all right, of which I had to pay income tax because it's still earned income. Social Security is taxed better than earned income. So we'll just say I lost another 15%. I mean, probably 10%. We'll just say. So we lost another 10%. So I lose between FICA and Social Security alone, minus 7.65. Oops. We'll just say $10,000. So it's probably a little bit more than that. But let's just say I lose. So now I'm at $50,000 before anything. I have $50,000 after FICA, after income tax. And that's before state tax too. So I mean, so right now I'm at $40,000 from Social Security, whereas at $50,000 net of taxes without even putting money in the 401k, without my health insurance cost. Now, people say, and this the article is just referencing, they'll say, oh, but your Part B and Part D will be, $3,000 a year. I said, well, yeah, but essentially my health insurance bill was that same thing before. I mean, when I was at USA, I still had health insurance. I still paid $600 a month. I mean, my Part B and Part D, when I'm in Medicare, let's just say it's a wash. So before I was at $50,000 a year, net of taxes, and we'll say we're washing out we're washing out your Medicare premiums, Part B and Part D, and your Medicare gap. All right, so that's a wash. And now I'm at $40,000. All right, now I'm not commuting. I don't understand this retirement crisis. I just don't get it. Now, what if I'm single? All right, then I will be at $40,000 a month. I'd be at it'd be about $30,000 a year, excuse me, because I wouldn't get my wife's half her spousal benefit. But on the other hand, my wife does work. She has a job. She's probably going to make more for her own PIA than than a spousal benefit. So there's all these different things that go along with these things. I just sit there thinking, why is all these people encouraging us to say, we can't retire? I literally don't get it. And that's before you even looking at assets. So I just showed you right there. After FICA, after federal taxes, I'm netting $50,000. I have to pay something for health insurance. Okay, so that's over here. After Social Security, my wife and I both taking at full retirement age, remaining $40,000. I have to pay a Medicare Part B and Part D. Okay, that's being a wash. So both those things are washed. So when I'm working, I'm making 50. When I'm retired, I'm making 40. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. And that's literally from the CPS, which the consumer, I forgot the consumer survey, population survey. Now, I'll challenge that population survey to a blue in the face simply because they underestimate income for retirees with IRA distributions. But I'm not using IRA distributions. I'm just saying at the end of the day, we made the median income. Our Social Security benefit provides us a pretty significant amount of that. And the likelihood that I spend as much as I did when I was working is nil. It's just not going to happen. My man Alberto was talking about that, and he made a comment about that exact same thing. Because people just don't spend as much in retirement as they did when they're working, and we know that factually. The BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, we know this to be true. This isn't me just whistling past a graveyard. I just, for the love of me, I don't understand why so many people are caught up and say, ah. Anyway. See what else we got here. We talked about that. My wife worked only 10 years. What's the minimum you'd receive from social? All right. So, Clint, remember SSI. This is going to sound like I'm being nitpicky. SSI and Social Security are a little bit different. So when a lot of professionals, well, they should, when they hear SSI, they think of disability or actually even Social Security income for not retirement income, if that makes sense. So I know you're talking about regular Social Security income, but just in the back of your mind, folks, if I could train you in some regard to look at SSI, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Social Security retirement benefit. Doesn't seem like much, but there can be a significant difference if we're not clear. So I just want to point that out. Was the minimum she would receive from Social Security? It really depends on what her, I mean, let's just say, well, let's just go back, say she averaged $10 an hour. So $10 an hour is 20,000. You got 2,080 hours in a year work hours. So she'd make $20,000. So she'd make $20,800 a year. We'll just say that was what she made. She made the $10 an hour, the equivalent of $10 an hour for her whole life. All right. So now what we do is we take 20,800 and we're going to times that by 30. Well, I guess I don't have to do that. Well, let me just do the way I know how to do it, by 35. And that's going to give us $728,000 will be her her index in income. So she made $20,800. That's $10 an hour for 2,080 hour work year. All right. She did it for 35 years. And we're already inflated this. That means her index, her total earnings would be $728,000. So total index earnings. We divide that by 420. That means her AIME is 1733. All right. So her PIA, or AIME, her average index monthly earnings is $1,733. All right. So we know the first 926 is 90%. So we take 1733 minus 926, 807. So let me show you what I'm doing here. All right, so this is her average index monthly earnings, 1733, basically on $10 an hour over the course of 35 years of work. You said 10, so we'd have to revisit this in a second. So the first 926, we times that by 0.9. The next, so 1733 minus 926 is 807. We times that by 0.32 times 0.32. And that would give us 258. And 926 times 0.9 gives us 833 plus 258. So her total benefit there at full retirement age is $1,091. And again, this just goes to show you how Social Security it rewards the lower income more so than the higher income, because the lower income gets that 90% on that first $926 of index earnings. Once you start getting above that, it's 32%. Then once you break $5,583, you only get 15 cents on the dollar. It's confusing, I know, but in this case, so her AIME is 1733. She'll get $1,091 of her. That will be her PIA at her full retirement age. I'm just curious, though, just while I'm yapping here, what if she only did that for 10 years? So now we got 2,000. We averaged $10 a month for 2 years. So her total income would be 200. There you go. 208,000. That's gonna be her total income. 208,000. Now we still divide that by 420 because it's their top 35 years. In which case she only has 10 years. That means a bunch of zeros. So in this case, her total benefit for AIME will be 495. I'm sure you can read that glorious handwriting, and you times that by 0.9. So basically you're looking at what, 480 or something like that, 470. So in that case, if she made $10 an hour and she did it for 10 years, that's it. Her benefit would be, let's just say $500 for simplicity. So now the question is, will that benefit be more or less than her spousal benefit based on your record, Clint? In that case, it's probably going to be less. So she'll probably want to get a spousal benefit as opposed to hers. Now, to be honest, for the record, she's not getting a spousal benefit and not getting hers. What's happening is she's getting her benefit and then she's adding a bonus to it based on her spousal benefit. So it's not like she's still getting her benefit. She's just getting an additional amount if it warrants for your spousal benefit. It's clear as mud. Let's see. Let's see. My wife. Okay. Thanks, Josh. You got my man, Tampa Bay Bullets. You see I think that's Harry. I think. Do you see the comment I made on you on our me and this guy Sean on our Bruins chat? I said, don't listen to TPA Bolts. He likes the Lightning. Big A, 40K and zero cost to work every day. Yeah. I'm telling you, my inclination is if you're living off $5,000 a month and working each and every day, driving that crappy old job, commuting to Buckhead and, wanting to jump off a bridge, I think you'd be just fine on 40,000 with no taxes. I just do. I could be wrong. And that's before even considering any other source of income, the roof over your head. I want to say, in my opinion, this is Rexpo. The effort you put out for us shows that you have a servant heart and a brother in Christ. I'm thankful for you, man. Well, I appreciate that, Rexpo. Thanks. Jonathan Hobbs says, always very informative. Totally agree with Josh. My expense will drop. Me too, man. This may sound stupid. I believe that your channel might be your ministry. Hope that, well, I think you always got to give glory to where glory is due, my friend. And for me, as a believer, that the simplicity of Christianity is nuts. I don't get why we get so caught up in this. Did Jesus live? Did Jesus die? And was Jesus born again, raised from the dead? If the answer to those three things is yes, then problem solved. Why do we get caught up in the legalistic nature of the word? I talked about this last time. Just if Jesus rose from the dead, I probably want to be on that guy's team. If he wasn't, okay. As Paul said, it's all irrelevant. So you either got to come to the grips as a Christian or someone who's thinking about it or someone who's not sure, or someone who's maybe going away. Don't get caught up in the legalistic stuff. Answer to yourself, did Jesus live? Yes. It's not debatable, frankly. Did Jesus die? Well, if he lived, then he died. So two of those three things inherently are true. And did Jesus rise again? If the answer is yes, then if the answer is no, that's fine. But make a determination on that. And if the determination is people don't rise from the dead, that's not you can't, you can say that, but we know people don't rise from the dead. We know God rises from the dead. That's the issue. We are supernatural believers in the supernatural being Jesus. If you don't believe that anything can supernaturally happen like that, then no, people don't rise from the dead. If you believe that supernatural creator of the world, of the universe, then rising from the dead seems small potatoes to me. I don't have it here. Well, there's another book. Maybe I'll do a video on that at some point. But anyway, not right on, but I appreciate that. So anything else out there, guys? How long have we been on here? What time check? 9:12. So, I had some hot tea. I'm feeling pretty good. So if you don't have anything else, I'll let you all go. But, man, I tell you, I much oblige you all being here. I love this stuff. I do. I rub some people wrong. My man, Scott, he's always kind of banging on me a little bit. And I get that, man. Look, personalities are going to rub people wrong. I am who I am. I'm going to have these long videos. My short videos aren't short. But I like it, man. It's fun. I think people get educated. If they don't, then people won't be coming on board. I'm cool with that. At the end of the day, that's the nice thing about being a liberated man in Christ is, the big guy upstairs is going to take care of it. And you might not like how he takes care of it, but if you trust that he's going to take care of it, you're all good. And that's all there's to it. Just, hey, real quick, for anyone who is interested in economics, the best textbook on economics other than, I'm not going to find it. Henry Hazlitt's Economics in One Lesson. I got back there. If you're looking at economic stuff, this guy, Karl Menger, this is from 1880, something like that, Germany, Austrian, maybe he was Austrian. I'm not sure if they say Germany. Anyway, literally the easiest textbook on economics you can possibly read. And when I mean easy, it's not an easy read, but it makes so much sense. And the funny thing is that Principles of Economics by Menger was, remember Karl Marx was out there at the run around the same time. And it's just ironic that Marx, somehow Marxism took over and, ruined many, many, many people. That's all there is to it. Capitalists have not always been good for sure. But if you're looking at the freedom context of economics, you're going to have a hard time beating Karl Menger's Principles of Economics books. And of course, if you want to dive deep into it, Ludwig von Mises, Human Action. I got that back there too, someplace. That might be downstairs. But that's, if you want to get a gauge of economics and you're interested in that stuff and you're just, sick of the Marxist stuff or even the Keynesian, I hate to even say it, even if you're saying there's got to be more than Milton Friedman. And I love Milton Friedman, von Mises, Karl Menger. These are Henry Hazlitt's Economics One Lesson is a starting point without question, but I saw my man Quincy talk about an article in the Wall Street Journal today, an op-ed. So Quincy, I know you're a younger guy, but I'm telling you, man, when I was when I got out of the Army and I was going to school, and I was a horrible student when I was in high school. I think I had like a 1.8. I was stunned to have graduated. Let's just put it that way. A horrible student. And I remember, so I was nervous. I was like, man, all these kids are gonna be smarter than me. I was in the infantry. I mean, so I went to the bookstore one day and and the two things I started to do, I forced myself to read the op-ed page of the Wall Street Journal. I forced myself to do it. I said, I'm going to read it. I said, I got to read it. I'm going to read it. I've always been a voracious reader, always have been, raised by hippies. We wouldn't have a TV, but I'm telling you right now, I forced myself to read the Wall Street Journal op-ed piece. There's new guys on there now. Paul G. Go, I'm not sure if he's still on there. They used to have a guy, I'm drawing a blank his name, back from the 90s and 80s. I forgot his name. I can't remember if Paul G. Go is still on there or not. They took a little bit of turn I wasn't too fond of. But anyway, long story short, it would have been more corporatist as opposed to capitalist, and I didn't like that so much. But I forced myself to read it. And I'm just telling you, man, the education I got from wanting to do that, I'm doing was great. And so then I saw Henry Hazlitt's Economics in One Lesson. And I said, I'm going to force myself to read that too, because I didn't want to look like a fool in front of these 18-year-old college kids. I was like, man, I'm 22. I was in the Army. I was in the infantry. I don't know anything. I did horrible in high school. I'm going to go to these college kids and people are going to be, laughing me on. I'm going to be laughing stock. So I forced myself to read it. So I'm just telling you, Quincy, because I think that was you, the young guy. Keep it up, man. Oh, no, that wasn't you. I think, Quincy, you are young. That was another guy out there, young guy too. Alex, if you're still out there, my friend, force yourself to read stuff that you might not otherwise. The opinion page of the Wall Street Journal is a good place to start. At least it used to be, and I still think it probably is. Absolutely. I was about 1.8 college. Yeah. My man Jeff said he was also 1.8. Man, me too. That's school. You don't go there to get learned. Or was it Mark Twain or something like that? I don't know. Look, I love teachers. Teachers, you have a tough job. But man, for me as a young boy, oh gosh, I was just sitting there thinking I'd rather do anything than have someone drone on about geometry. Oh, it's just even painful. One of my kids was asking some geometry questions the other day, and I just looked at it. It was like a nightmare. I was like, oh, no, I can't. Oh, man. If you take on clients, again, keep me in mind, Cheryl. I look to retire in August. Right on. Thank you, Tracy, for allowing us to access Right Cap software. Yeah, right on, Tracy. Good. High school's all about the girls and partying. It was real quick. I had one time they called my dad in because I was failing out of school, and my dad comes in and he says to my teachers, "Excuse me, but yeah, I don't even hardly know what your son looks like." My dad's like, "Why?" He goes, "Because he looked at the chart and like I missed probably 80% of the classes." The teacher didn't even recognize me. Oh man. Hey, no, right on. You don't have to, man. You don't have to invest the way I recommend. You got to do what you got to do, man. I don't care. You don't have to like my politics. I don't care. You just got to be pleasant. I mean, just be nice. People don't have to be, pardon my French, a-holes. I don't get it. Too much have that going around, but you don't have to invest the way I see. In fact, frankly, people don't have to sit there and say, they can still be, I don't want to say pessimistic, but worried about their plight. I worry about my plight. Absolutely. I just don't want it out there that people say, that everyone's doomed. I find that nuts. And lastly, that also I'll say this on blue in the face, but just because you leave your crappy old job doesn't mean you're not working. I mean, hell, you can do something. My man Jeff does software video. Software. He could do software. I mean, I don't care what it is. I just say if you're miserable at your job, you're sitting there just slaving away because you've been read all this stuff and research that says you're all going to run out of money by the time we're 72.
It's just not the life we're meant to live. Not in America, man. Not in the U.S. This isn't freaking communist Russia. This is the U.S. of A. We're not meant to sit in traffic an hour and a half each way, commuting while we're putting on 50 pounds and freaking hating life and coming back and yelling at the kids. That's nuts. I mean, you can still yell at the kids. It's up to, but you're not. That's not. On the false premise that if I don't do this, I'm gonna be miserable. Dude, you're miserable now. Yeah. But I miss what you guys talk about. I don't know, man. I don't know. All right, I'm going to get out of here. We'll see you guys. Thanks again for being on. Much obliged. We'll do this every Wednesday. So throw up the questions and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks now.